Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Mansfield Town Shirt Stories. This time we are joined by Mansfield Town fan favourite striker Andy White. So hi Andy and welcome to Mansfield Town Shirts headquarters. Thank you very much for coming. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about your sort of early career at Hucknall Town, a club known for quite a good reputation, certainly around here for producing young players, and quite a big club at the time in the non-league, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was my PE teacher who took me over to Hucknall. I started playing for Swanwick Pentridge Road, just a village team really, and I'd always had ambitions to do whatever I can in football, and he kind of identified that through kind of school team, etc. He said, look, I play for Hucknall Town, come along, train with us and see how it goes. And I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose really. So went along just to kind of start in the reserves, did pre-season with them. That was a real kind of baptism of fire, going from school team to the banter within a non-league changing room was massive. And they stitched me up quite a few times, but it was nice to be in amongst the first team, even if it is non-league. Like you say, they played at a pretty decent standard back then with some real good, proper non-league players.
A nice ground as well. It was a nice setup there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Moved recently, but
yeah, it was, and it was my first taste of really being in and around a stadium, if you like, and a club of that kind of stature. Did all the pre-season with them. I played a pre-season friendly against Mansfield. In that game, I was absolutely buzzing because it was 400 or 500 people. So for me, so for me that was a massive thing, and I just went out, and when you I think it's 18, 19, you play with absolutely no fear, and did well in that pre-season friendly. This was the summer of 99, I think it was, and it was at that point Bastaven, physio, came over to me after the game, shook my hand and said, well done lad, and I thought nothing of it, but next game we played against South Normanton, and looked over my shoulder. Billy McEwen was the manager, well he was standing manager for John Ramshaw, because John used to go to the USA coaching. So Billy said to me, Andy, Mansfield Town are coming to watch you today. And I was on the bench actually, but he said, look, I'll get you on, I'll make sure I'll get you on so you can make a decent impression. Came on last 20 minutes against South Normanton, and I met Skip, so Stuart Watkins, Ivan Hollett after the game, and said, look, we're interested, what do you think? I said, I mean, I'm at school, I'm doing my A-levels, that's my priority, so I'm not looking at anything else apart from that. And he said, no, just summer holidays, come across, just train with us and take it from there, see where it leads really. And I was going away for 3 weeks that evening actually after the South Normanton game, so I said, look, I can't come training just yet, I'm on holiday for 3 weeks. So I picked up after my holiday and went training right through that summer. And again, talk about a baptism of fire from, playing school football to Hucknall. I then went into playing or training with the first team. And again, that was a complete
I can't imagine the difference.
It was like, team that Lee Peacock, Gaz Talon, Roscoe, some real good players. And again, it's part of that old school banter as well.
I can imagine.
So, trained all through the summer of 99 with them, and then it kind of petered off because I was travelling and there was no kind of travel expenses. I was going every single day, and don't get me wrong, it's not about money, but when you're on £15 a week doing a paper round and you're putting 40, 50 quid in your car every week, it's a lot. It is a massive, and my paper round was all I had financially then because I was a student. So it just petered out, came to nothing. Then the season started. For Mansfield, I went back to Hucknall, started playing for Hucknall's first team, made a few appearances in the FA Trophy. Again, really good experiences. I can remember a game away at Morecambe actually, who were in non-league back then and playing in the FA Trophy.
Had some good cup runs Hucknall, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. That was a little bit after my time. I know the FA Trophy they got to a final of, didn't they, when Danny Bacon was there. But started playing for Hucknall on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, I think my name must have popped up in some of the, not local Chad around, scoring for Hucknall, and that's when Ivan got in touch again, rang my home phone, because we had mobile phones back then, and he said, do you want to come and, play for the youth team on an evening game, which was an FA Youth Cup game. I can't remember who it was again, because we had that many that time, but we had a real good run in the FA Youth Cup, and I played in the morning. I was playing at Field Mill, the old big West Stand. Scored some important goals for the youth team, actually. Scored a real good goal against Sunderland, about 30 yard out, and I was just playing with no pressure, no expectation of going anywhere, no real aspirations of playing professional football. I was just enjoying my football in stadiums. So
I suppose you'd had that disappointment of already going and having a bit of training, then it going away again, so I suppose you just think, well, just go for it and see what happens.
Exactly, and it wasn't so much a disappointment, it just seemed to peter out, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I got invited back to play for the youth team, and playing at these lovely stadiums. Played at Molineux in the FA Youth Cup, played at West Brom, played at Oakwell, scored a good goal at Oakwell as well.
Not your first, not your only good
goal. No. In fact, I think the youth team one was probably better than what I scored. Yeah, it was a really good goal, and playing with players. We had Liam Lawrence, we had Jervis, we had Lee Williamson, we had Adam Jones, Dean Mitchell. We had a real Craig Swinscoe. We had a brilliant team, really was. So we did well. I think we got to semi-finals of the Midlands FA Youth Cup, and we got quite far, 5th, 6th round in the National Youth Cup. So did really well for a club of Mansfield.
Yeah, for a club of Mansfield size. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in April 2001, April 2001, you made your debut against Cardiff City. Do you remember the build up to that? Do you remember sort of thinking I'm going to play, or was it out of the blue, or how did that sort of come about that you were going to come on, or certainly be on the bench?
Yeah, I think it was. So I'd been kind of spare man basically for the whole of the season. So that 17th man, really on the periphery of the squad, not really being involved, and there was some kind of murmurings that obviously I don't think we had an awful lot to play for at the end of that season. So Billy Dearden was wanting to have one eye on next season and start to give players a little bit more first team experience. I mean, Jerv, Liam Lawrence, Ali Asher, they were real kind of mainstays. Bobby Hassel, real mainstays of that team through that season. Had a good run, and I'm looking over thinking, similar sort of age, I'm not really getting an opportunity. So I was probably the last one of that kind of youth team cohort to actually get a chance, and I know Hicksy was kind of putting pressure on the manager a little bit to give me a chance, because he was seeing how well I was progressing in my development, and Robbo as well. Les Robinson, great pro, great friend as well. So I had a bit of a heads up from Hicksy and Robbo that tonight's the night, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can remember the roar of a crowd, the smell of the grass. This is your debut in professional football. I mean, I grew up watching Derby, and I was looking at the baseball ground, looking, and even just in the warm up thinking, God, I want to be out there one day. I want to be part of this, and that was my chance. And I can't remember too much about the game, but I can remember after I didn't sleep a wink all night. You're on such a high. The adrenaline never actually comes down. You kind of going through your mind, what happened at this point, what happened, and it was just an amazing experience.
Do you remember who you came on for?
I haven't got a clue.
Shane Bradley.
Oh, was it? I would have guessed Shane Bradley.
I had a look, and I thought I wonder who came off. It was Shane Bradley.
Yeah, because in my first season, obviously Shane Bradley was signed, and I was thinking, crikey, 150 grand from Southampton. He's going to knock me even further down the pecking order. But I think Shane had a few injury problems.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So I got my opportunity with. Bradley was a brilliant support for me as well. Good laugh. So
I spoke to him about shirts before. He's a good guy. He's a brilliant guy actually.
I know Mansfield fans don't particularly see him in great light.
The old blue and white debacle, I forgive that eventually.
But to be honest, he, as a young lad, you're looking at who can help support you, and everybody did from day dot. It was, I mean, it's a difficult transition going from school where I did my A-levels, I was a big fish in a small pond, to being a professional footballer or trying to be a professional footballer, but playing for a living. Massive transition, not particularly physically, although that is a big transition, but the mental side of things, the kind of the banter, the jokes, everything is just
completely different.
It is, and it's not something. I mean, back then you got away with murder. Really, honestly, people. Some of the stories, there'd be arrests made in some of the stuff that went on. Absolute cutthroat dressing room. But that's just how it was.
You talked about players that did support him, and this is the away shirt from the season that you made your debut in. That one worn by Stuart Hicks. You talked about Stuart, a really experienced sort of part of that team. What was he like to play with?
It was good because he was coming towards the tail end of his career. He identified that, and I think everybody did, that there was a cohort of young players coming through who could really do something for this Mansfield Town team. And obviously it was proven right. So he was really nurturing to myself, Liam. I can see Sisso's
there's a few
signature on there.
Sisso,
an absolute fantastic player. Ali Asher, Bobby Assel. So he was one who we all looked up to. As Blakey, Mark Blake, he was a cracking pro. I can remember one Christmas do actually. We went out in Nottingham and we started off stupid o'clock, like 12 o'clock in Hooters, and we were all in bad taste. So we'd all been searching through the charity shops looking for the worst gear you can imagine. Me and Danny Bacon travelled in together, so we got a taxi up from Mansfield into Hooters where we were meeting at 1. Me and Danny walked in there. Not one of the other Mansfield lads was in there, but the whole of the Forest team were in the corner. So Steve Stone, Ian Wone, Jason Lee, that group, Pierre Van Hooijdonk, they're all in their proper gear, ready for a night out. Me and Danny walked in our charity shop, get up, and they were absolutely laughing their heads off because we were dressed horrendously, and then we had a great day and night. Keeping up with some of them drinking wise, 'cause that's the first time you kind of really got into the drinking on the Christmas do.
Different world,
it was
next level.
It was. I couldn't explain that fact. I remember going to Creation, the nightclub just on the outskirts of Nottingham.
Right.
You might not remember it, but you had to catch a bus. So it's where the Boots factory is. Big nightclub there. You had to catch a bus from Nottingham City Centre to Creation. Okay. But that was a place to be back then, and I can remember being on that bus thinking, I'm going to be sick.
I don't feel right.
No, but we had a good night, and there's some good pros in there. There's some good pros, good friends, and they looked after me. Chrissy Greenacre was there. Bradders, as you mentioned.
Yeah, there's a few on there.
Bingham, some good memories.
We also mentioned, you mentioned this guy, which is Alistair Asher's shirt that's from the season before that, obviously. But do you remember of Alistair? Another local guy, a really nice guy I spoke to and got that shirt from. Yeah,
he was one of the young lads and kind of year above us. So he was part of the youth team who'd actually progressed into the first team, and he was doing well in the first team. So
he was,
for us lads, we were looking up to Ali to say, right, well, we're going to get a chance here because he's giving players a chance. Ali was an outstanding player. What a right foot, by the way.
He's one of my favourites. I think it was the haircut that did it for me.
The haircut.
Sort of Beckham-esque haircut.
He had a Citroen Saxo actually, and I copied him getting the same car as him, although I got a slightly different colour. But I think he was. You could see that it was possible to break into this first team, and Ali was the first to do that alongside Bobby Assel and Sisso. So. Those three, Diz as well, he was a year above, Danny Bacon. We were looking at those 4 or 5 players and think
it can actually
happen, because they're only a year above us and they're in the first team. So again.
So you first start for the club the following season, first game of the season away at Hartlepool, 1-1 draw. What do you remember of that?
I remember having a really good pre-season. doing really well. I think Shane might have been in and out injury wise, and there were talk about me kind of starting the season because I'd done really well in pre-season, scored a few goals, and yeah, I can remember travelling up to that game. Actually, it was on one of my old double-decker buses. It was a strange one. It's not like the luxury coaches from now. No. It was a double-decker bus with the old metal bar behind.
Were you on the top or the bottom?
I was on the top, yeah. I didn't go on the back seat, but I was on the top. But it was literally, because normally we'd have a decent coach, you'd have the tables, you'd have the tellies, not like nowadays, but luxury in those days. But we ended up on one of those, I feel like Redfern Travel double-decker, you know those that do the school runs now, the green ones? Yeah. It was one of them. So we didn't travel in style, but I remember getting to, and my legs were just so heavy. I felt the nerves in my legs, and I can't remember too much about the game. Was it a draw?
1-1. Yeah, I think Chris Greenacre.
Was it Chris Greenacre?
Sure, it was Chris Greenacre.
Yeah. So I think that game I just really made a nuisance of myself, and I think I went on that. I think I started the first 10 games.
Yeah, you start. Yeah, I can't remember the exact amount, but you played all the games in August and pretty much most of September as well.
Yeah, so I made a pretty decent start. I don't think goals-wise, as per usual with me, I didn't return that many goals, but I think I did get a goal against Macclesfield at home.
4-0.
4-0. Yeah. I remember that game.
You did, yeah. Chrissy scored twice, or did Disley score twice, and Chrissy scored something like that. Somebody scored twice.
Yeah. I think it might have
been Disley scored. He had a right start to that season.
He did, yeah. And again, just with Skip stepping up to being assistant, I think he started as assistant, didn't he, that season? So he kind of accelerated my progression into the first team as well, and we had such a high energy tempo. I've been watching Mansfield a lot this season, and the tempo's really strong. It's like closing from the front, and we're all like that. We're fit as anything. Skip had us running. What's the wood called? Fees Wood.
Right.
We used to have to do the blue run through Fees Wood, and we were the fittest team probably in the league at that point, because Skip is a runner. He likes to have a decent pre-season, and we started off pretty well. And first 10 games, I don't think we were kind of pulling up any trees, but
no, we were there or thereabouts.
Yeah, we had a solid start. And then, as usual for me as well, my kind of consistency went downhill in terms of my form, but I think I managed to kind of hover in and around the team after that. And then obviously after Christmas, I can't remember what the first game was in that run, in the running. So historically with me, I've always had a decent start and a decent end to a season. Yeah. It's that middle bit.
Sounds a bit like Stags.
Yeah, that middle bit I never quite nailed. Whether it was the weather or what, I don't know.
Well, that was the shirt that season. Obviously iconic. The actual shirt itself. Do you remember much about the shirt? Where it was slightly different to the one before, but
yeah. I can just remember all the shirts are just massive.
They are massive. No matter what player you get, whether they're 6'7" or whether they're 5'5", it's the same size shirt.
So I can remember it always used to seem like it hung off me, and hung off everybody really. You always a Robbo in that.
Yeah, that's obviously Les Robinson's shirt. That one from see the damage from him when he was a captain. But that's Les's shirt.
So he's probably what 5'10", 5'9". He might have even that.
Would have buried him, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would have absolutely buried him. But again, it was. At least we had a sponsor this year, because I think the previous year
we didn't have one. Then we took Thorwald halfway through the season, but it was started off as blank. But did you get any free vodka? Kick vodka? Was that a thing?
We did.
I remember at the end of the on promotion was that a thing. I remember the bus. Yeah, the vodka bus.
Yeah, the VK
I was
bus.
there when that was going around.
Bottles of the it was like the fake vodka Red Bull, wasn't it? But the bottle of tea for hot, but we got plenty of those down. So that was the only occasion we got. No, we did actually have the cans of VK, not the alcoholic ones, but the energy drinks.
Yeah.
So we had them.
So you can have them
in abundance every game to rot some more tea.
Perks of a professional football.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure kind of nutritionally, but if they'd be allowed anymore. But that's what we had back in the day. So
What do you remember of Les? So Robbo says he's a good friend of yours. I've spoken to him a couple of times. Been brilliant whenever I've spoken to him. What are your sort of memories?
He's probably one of the funniest men I've ever met in football. He really is. We had some real good. He was the one who was, any practical jokes. Yeah. He was always the one playing these practical jokes. I remember one, we were travelling back, I think we trained at Epperstone at the old Nottinghamshire Police Training College.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Back then. And we had to travel to there and back, and obviously on the way back we're all in convoy, and we used to call it, rightly or wrongly, wacky races, because we all used to just be like racing each other down all the country lanes out Epperstone Way, and then we got back to Sainsbury's, the traffic lights at Sainsbury's, and we're all in this big queue. John Andrews is at the front of the queue.
Yeah,
I might have been the season before actually, but this is a story about Robbo. He was at the front in this battered old Fiesta, and Robbo's behind with Chrissy Greenacre, and I think it might have been Pilks in the car behind. Robbo's got out of the passenger seat, gone to John Andrews, and stood next to him while he's at the traffic lights and gone, why do you mean? So he's winded down. He's pulled his keys out of the car and lobbed them in the bushes next to Sainsbury's. So he's at the front of the queue, and it's double lane so we can get around it, but he stood there, engines on, and he had to get out his car, get into the bushes. I'm not joking, it must have took him half an hour to find his keys.
So if you ever stuck in traffic in in and around 2001 near Sainsbury's, it was Robbo's fault.
So that just typifies Robbo really. And again, Christmas dues, we stopped out in Nottingham in a hotel, and still don't know to this day, but they had a prank call, let's call it, to the hotel, because we were all stopping there, and Robbo went home. So I'm not sure who. I'm not making any claims about who made this prank call, but somebody made a prank call to the hotel, and we all had to get evacuated at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, lovely.
So we're all stood outside, middle of December, freezing cold, and I think Robbo was a culprit.
His name might have been on that one.
Although I don't think he'll ever admit it. But that's the type of jokes that he played, typical back then.
And another guy we spoke about, this isn't the shirt from that season, this was a couple of seasons before, but it's a man I want to talk about because, like you say, you started those sort of first 9 or 10 games, and you had a great partnership with Chris Greenacre, sort of one of my favourite players of all time. What was he like to play with? Because that dynamic between you and him just seemed to work, didn't it? I know they always say the little of large partnership, but it really did work up front for Stags, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, talk about an intelligent footballer. Intelligent, hard-working. Nobody worked harder than Chrissy Greenacre on a training field. In fact, I've seen one player, Dean Ashton, was a real grafter, but Chrissy, he's wanting shooting practice after every training session, in the gym, working hard on his game, touches. I mean, Mark Kearney used to take all the young lads for like working our touch, level 2 touch in the afternoon, and Chris used to come and join us because he wanted, just to be playing football all the time. I mean, he travelled from Wakefield to play for the Stags and obviously train, and that's a 2-hour commute. But he's still there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with us lot when everyone else is back at home watching Neighbours or whatever. But again, supportive, a real good laugh, talking to you all the time at football, through the football match, and telling us where he's going, what runs he's going to make, and he was an absolute kind of joy, but also a cracking person. I don't think I've ever heard a bad word said against Chrissy Greenacre, and a talented footballer, and he was the main difference really that season.
Massively, if you look at the goals he scored, 25 plus, he was. Yeah, some of the goals as well. They weren't just simple strikers tap-ins, were they? He was scoring. He was banging them in from all over.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a couple from a previous season. I mean, Rotherham away, the volley from outside.
That was a decent goal. It was on Sky one.
Cheltenham away.
Halfway line. Yeah.
But he was doing that every day in training, and his finishing. Again, I've spoke about Dean Ashton, but I think Chrissy is the best finisher I've ever seen, ever trained with, and ever played with, and hard working as well, physical, didn't mind a battle. So he was a real all round decent player, and obviously we lost him at the end of that season. He went on to have a decent kind of championship level career, which is, he should have got to Prem for me, but
he was definitely good enough.
Definitely good enough, but. Just a nice bloke, and but we did a few podcasts last summer before, and he joined us on that, and it was great to catch up all the way from New Zealand.
From New Zealand, So this is the away shirt from that season. Same obviously material and everything as the home shirt, but this one worn by Leicester loanee Matty Piper. Joined us for about 12-13 games. I thought he had a really big impact actually. I thought he was a really good player, wasn't he? Do you remember a lot of Matty?
I do, yeah. Again, so it's quick, like just so. I think he signed as a winger, but then I think Billy did, and I think it was just like December time. So obviously I'm kind of taking a bit of a back seat at that time.
You're stepping back.
Yeah, I'm stepping back, and Pipes, you can go out in that cold and wet weather.
Yes.
But he obviously came. I've listened to some of his podcasts, and I think he played a couple of Premier League games, didn't he, before he came to Mansfield?
He did, and he joined us in the sort of September, October time, left sort of December, and then went on to play about 20 more games for Leicester in the Premier League after we played him in the FA Cup.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think goal-scoring wise he contributed an awful lot.
No, I think he did too, I think.
Yeah, but he was a nice lad. He was just a nice bloke, and he fit so well into the team, you know. Yeah. Lee Williamson, Liam Lawrence, myself, Diz. He just fit straight into the team, and was a real kind of asset. He just embraced it, you know. Bear in mind, he's come from Leicester, where you're getting everything done for them. You know, the Premier League team, you're getting kit wash, you're getting food after game, after training, you're getting everything laid on for you. Whereas you come to Mansfield, you're having to wash your own kit. Yeah. We used to turn up in the training kit because we used to turn up in our training kit, so we didn't have to bother getting changed in the morning, so we could arrive that little bit later. Then we used to travel over to Ashfield Comp, where we trained. So
that's the school I went to, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, I went to Ashfield.
So for Pipes, you know, having to travel to a school,
a secondary school,
where, you know, no disrespect, but it's not, you know, your training grounds like you've got now, is it? It's basically just a field with a few. we did have the portable goals, so we did have a big goals there. But you know, Pipes is having to wheel these goals out and set them out, and that was a big change for him. But he embraced it. You know, he absolutely loved it, and I think he loved the lower league mentality as well, and just kind of some of the stuff that he joined in with, really. It's part of that culture that we had. I'm not going to say it's a drinking culture, it wasn't, but we were just young lads.
Yeah, everyone got on,
having a good time together. Yeah, we knew each other, and I think, you know, you see players now, and we're still mates. You know, Chrissy Greenacre, Bings, Pilks. They're all still friends now, so it shows you how
close it was.
Yeah.
They're talking about Leicester and Matty. We obviously drew Leicester in the third round of the FA Cup. You came on as a late substitute at the time. Do you remember much about that game at Filbert Street?
I do, yeah. I remember, obviously, Filbert Street, proper old school ground. I mean, I grew up watching Derby at the baseball ground. It's got a similar kind of feel to the ground.
You had to go in through someone's house, so I was in the away end. I mean, I was only sort of 10 at the time, but we had to go in through someone's, like, what used to be someone's living room into the ground. When the ball went up in the air, I couldn't see it. Yeah, because the stand was over your head.
But I do remember, you know, that whole side taken out by the Mansfield.
It was. It was a loud atmosphere. That was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and you could real sense that on the pitch as well. And then you're coming on against, you know, Dennis Wise. I think Rob Ullathorne there, I played with at Notts County a bit later on.
Was he? Is it? I think he might have played for us. I think Chris Greenacre got his shirt.
Yeah.
Robbie Savage?
Robbie Savage played, yeah. So again, for me, rubbing shoulders with these Premier League players was something I dreamed about. So even though I only played last 10 minutes, I made sure I made the most of that 10 minutes, and I didn't get a shirt. No, I don't know. I must have been too shy to ask for a shirt. But I remember obviously us losing the game, being gutted, and then after Billy did and dropping that bombshell. Was it before the game or after?
I think it was after, but I just wondered, that was going to be my next question. Do you sort of, because that was the sort of high of that game, and then as fans waking up thinking, he's going to Notts County, which was just out of nowhere for us. I mean, I assume as the players, it was exactly the same.
Complete bombshell. He told us after the game, and I remember them saying after the game, look lads, I know this is going to cause a bit of upset, but you know, meet us at East Midlands Airport tomorrow, which is the Sunday, 10 a.m. We're going to Portugal for a few days. So that helped soften the blow a little bit. And it was brandished as a bit of a kind of training week, but it wasn't. It was a back to the team bonding. Perhaps really embraced that as well. We had some good karaoke nights. I think we had a couple of games out there, but nothing to write home about. Certainly, it was more concentrated on the team bonding. Obviously, those golf lads were golfing, but again, I think it was just one of those where it was taking us away from the media kind of hoo-ha, if you like, around Billy Dearden, and trying to get us away from all that and concentrate on the league. And I think in the end, it was a good move, because we had a decent running from kind of January onwards in the league.
Yeah. How did you feel about Stuart taking over? Because obviously he's somebody you knew and had helped bring you on, so you must have took that as a sort of positive. That you played under Billy as well, but that someone was coming in who wasn't just going to change things up, and we're happy to keep playing these young lads.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about my Mansfield career, it was all down to kind of Stuart Watkiss, Ivan Ollett, big to do with it, and Billy Dearden. So to have Ivan and Stuart having more of a say in the team, obviously he was picking the team, was fantastic for me.
Yeah.
And I knew that he would put his faith in those youngsters, and he did. And I'd like to think that we kind of helped, pay him back a little bit in terms of contributing to that promotion. So for me, it was the best possible result from Billy, for the devastation of Billy going, to Stuart taking over and helping us, take us over the line.
So then we move sort of towards the end of that season, and you sort of come into your own towards the end of that back end. What do you remember about that run-in? Because in the sort of final 5 games you scored 3 goals, including a very important one against Carlisle. This was your shirt. Yeah. I don't expect you to necessarily hold it because it's quite heavy, but this is yours that you kindly brought with you. What do you remember about that run-in?
I remember when Skip came in, he kind of quickly identified that we needed some experience to help take the team kind of to that next level. Yeah. And he brought in Scotty Sellers and David Kelly. Yeah. And they were 2 kind of inspirational signings, really, to really steady the ship. Not necessarily what we gave on the field, although they were still fantastic players. I mean, particularly Scotty Sellers, he was like nothing you've seen, really, in terms of how he trained and his ability. Yeah. But just that kind of experience that he was passing on to the young players. David Kelly, I played up front with him a couple of times. He was offering so much. Chris Greenacre was talking to you a lot, but Dave Kelly was constant, talking you through the game. And I remember in particular the Tuesday night game against Lincoln City. I was just about
to say that he scored 2 that game, or he certainly was involved.
I think Lee Williamson scored 2.
Yes, he did. He scored 1.
Yeah, Pembo scored 1.
Yes,
but that was almost like the perfect performance that Tuesday night. And I know I didn't score, but I remember making a decent contribution in terms of that hold-up play, bringing others into the play.
Brilliant team performance. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant game.
So that really was the kind of trigger for that final running, that 4-1 away. I think Lincoln were there or thereabouts, and we went there and we absolutely destroyed them again.
Could have been so many more, couldn't it?
Yeah, and the Stags fans were unbelievable behind that goal, and that's one thing I'll take about that night. Just how good they were and how vocal they were on helping the team, and it does make a difference.
I was going to say, does it make a difference? I suppose it, whether they're vociferous in sort of excitement or the opposite scale, it does, I assume, make some level of difference. You don't understand as a fan how much. God! Obviously, you can't feel it down there.
No, but it does. And I know, obviously, this season 7,500 coming through the gate every single Saturday. It's making a difference, and it makes a difference now. And it made a difference to us to help get us over the line. I can remember going away to York, and I think Mansfield must have
went to that as well.
Did you? Probably 3,000 fans behind that goal. We lost. And Luton away lost 5-2, I think, was it?
Yeah,
because that was a game. Skip made a big decision, and I think he dropped Chrissy Greenacre for that one. And I don't know what his thinking was behind it. Whether it was because maybe Chrissy felt that it was in a bit of a comfort zone, perhaps, I don't know. Maybe just to give him a bit of a, bring him down to reality. But that game away at Luton, again, disappointing result. And it was almost like, you're on a high. I think we beat Bristol Rovers on the Saturday, and I think I scored in that game. And we went to Luton, lost that game, then picked it back up against Lincoln or whoever, and then we brought back down to earth at York, and we were defeated at York. And I remember thinking, that's us done. It's going to be playoffs. This is. But we were all, I remember us all kind of crammed round the radio because Cheltenham were kind of neck and neck with us.
Yeah, they were above us.
Yeah, so they were favourites really, and then they went to Carlisle on that. On one, was this after the game we beat Carlisle? I think it might have been. So we
beat Cheltenham. We played Carlisle in the last game, didn't we? We played Cheltenham a few games before that. That was when it was that busy. There was people who stood everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that was, if they'd have won that, they'd have basically gone on with a couple of games left. And we went above them, and then we never really dropped after that.
No, we didn't. And that Cheltenham game again just set it all up, and that was one of the kind of best evenings in my career.
Yeah.
Again, like you say, they have to delay kick-off.
There's people everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure the attendance only said it was like 8,000 something, but there was people. I remember where we sat on the end of a road. The stairs were just full of people. There was people in the bottom corner. Just couldn't sit down.
Yeah, I remember. I think we scored from a corner. I think I had a header, and Chrissy Greenacre followed it up for the first goal. I can't remember. It might have been Lee Williamson who took the corner, but he was having to usher players back.
Yeah, I remember the footage of that.
To take the corner.
It was on like ITV Sport.
It was
on telly.
Yeah. So so we kind of 1-1. Silly mistake for their goal, and then obviously Bobby Hassell's running down the right. I think like 15-20 minutes to go, and he still says to this day that it was a cross, but he was shooting. Trust me, he was shooting, and I've just stuck out my leg. I think it was about 18 yard out, and I can remember, I can see it now. It's like come off the outside of my foot, and it's spinning, and it's just spun back into that bottom corner. So it was a very lucky goal, but again, they all count, don't they? Yeah. But I can remember just the lid absolutely lifting off the roof, and everybody going absolutely mental. And again, I can remember that walk off the pitch. Yeah. The fans going absolutely crazy.
But you didn't see that
buzz. No, it was. I think I was interviewed after as well. I think I remember seeing that on ITV Sport.
Yeah, it was definitely on telly. It was definitely on ITV of some sort.
Yeah. So again, I think Mansfield fans remember me for maybe the Cheltenham game and the Barnsley game, but the Cheltenham game is the one for me.
Yeah.
Maybe eclipses the Carlisle game on the Saturday.
Yeah.
When we had to obviously win, but
I think Cheltenham played Plymouth, didn't they?
They did.
Plymouth were by far the best team in the league.
Yeah, they were champions.
They were champions, but I think they still beat Cheltenham anyway. I think it wouldn't have mattered, but
no. Yeah. Because I remember speaking to Skip just recently, this last couple of summers actually, around Paul Sturrock rang him before that game because we were worried that Plymouth were just going to be party mood, not really because nothing in it for them. But Paul Sturrock rang Skip up and said, "We'll do these on Saturday, and we'll do you a favour," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we did. We could hear every goal that went in down at Plymouth.
Yeah, I remember the radios. The people. I think my dad might have had one. Yeah,
we knew the score all the way through because the fans were just communicating all the way through, which was brilliant. So by after half time, we knew we'd done it. Second half was a bit of a no-go really. I think I missed an absolute sitter in second half as well.
At least you scored that.
Exactly.
You made it safe.
Yeah, but we'll forget about that, and then off over to Early Doors pub across the road, because back then there was no corporate functions in Stags.
No.
We all had to go over to eat Early Doors,
few
chip kebabs, then straight out in Mansfield, and I'm
carnage.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm hoping it'll be the same this season when Mansfield get over the line again. But the whole town was out that night, and I swear the whole of Mansfield were out, and it was a brilliant night. My wife, who's my wife now, came with me. I left her in Pally, I think, and went back to the hotel. We stopped at the station hotel.
Not many hotel options in Mansfield.
There's not back then. No. Certainly not. I mean, we were lucky to get in because I didn't book a room or anything. It was just some lad saying, "Look, we're stopping at station. Do you fancy it?" And I only live in kind of Alfredton, so it's not a great change. But I thought, yeah, why not? So I walked into the desk and said, "We haven't got it." So the only thing we've got is this room that we're decorating. So you can have that for 20 quid. And literally, there was a ladder in the corner with.
There's still a ladder.
Yeah, ladder with the paint pots. It stunk of paint. There was no decoration. It was just a bed, and I don't know how my wife got back to the hotel room because she doesn't know Mansfield too well. But I left her in Pally. I completely forgot about her.
She found her way back to the decorating suite.
With the decorating suite.
The Dulux suite.
Yeah, but I think she enjoyed the night. She enjoyed being part of it. and we all enjoyed it. I remember I tell this story quite a lot, but going into the Pally, you might not remember the Pally.
Yeah, I was a bit young, but I'm aware of it. But not somewhere I went.
So I walked in there, and it was like a drop the mic moment, and the DJ said, you know, it just started going Andy White. The whole of the Pally started chanting it. And that again is a memory that I'll that's a story I'll tell forever, but also a memory that I'll hold dear forever.
It don't happen so much now. Individual player songs. It used to, and I was certainly when I was a kid, I remember it. It's not that often now, but every player of that team seemed to have one. Whether it was Wayne Corden or yourself, or you know, there was always
it's funny how you mentioned that.
Whereas now it's not really a
really
a thing anymore.
No.
But brilliant. Thank you. So I've got a final few more shirts from that season. The first one, this was mine as a mascot. Wayne Corden, just how good was he? Because he was one of my favourite players at that time. Yeah. How good was Wayne?
Well, he was an entertainer, wasn't he? You
Massively. Wayne Cordino,
yeah, and he used to twist and turn and turn the defenders inside out, and he had such a good quality in terms of his delivery. I remember he put the corner in for my goal at Carlisle against Carlisle.
He scored the first as well.
He scored the first. So again, lethal, 20 yard out when he cuts in off that left hand
every time,
side.
It's like they've never seen him.
It's like, I don't know what the defenders, what research they were doing, but back in those days, we didn't have any kind of player analysis, but he used to, twist them inside out, score some great goals.
Before Ian Robin did it, made it famous. Corden was doing it years before that.
It was tricky for a centre forward because you never knew when the ball was going to come in, because he'd go one way and then you make your run and then he'd chop out and like, bloody hell, just put it in so. But you knew that when he did deliver, you could gamble on it and get on the end of it. I think I scored against Notts County when we got promoted in League One, and that was from Cords cutting on the right hand side, and I just slid on the back post. So, and again, a good friend and just a core member of that team, everyone's still kind of good friends now.
Yeah, somebody else you mentioned you're still good friends with is again somebody who I really loved as a kid is Kevin Pilkington. I'm sure you must have signed this somewhere, but. I
was probably on loan that day.
Probably, yeah. That was Pilks' shirt from the promotion season. I've also got his. Do you remember there was a contrasting shirts? They're both Pilks' shirts here. But how sort of comforting was it for the team to have him in goal? Because he was, I remember as a kid, he was fantastic, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pilks was somebody that I've looked up to right from a young age, believe it or not, because he's from my village. He's from Swanwick.
Right, okay.
So everybody knew Pilks. He used to come and do all the presentations, all like the local Sunday League presentations, because obviously he went on to play for Manchester United.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So again, he was an inspiration that, a player from a lad from Swanwick, a little village in Derbyshire, could go on and play for Manchester United. Yeah. So when he turned up, I remember it vividly actually, he got in the dressing room, we were playing Mansfield Town in a pre-season friendly, and Pilks walked through the door. And Pilks, I don't know if he knew me, but he knew, obviously I was a Swanwick lad, because he'd come down to watch Swanwick when I was playing for my village team, and seen him there, and I went up to him and says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And he looked at me and said, "Oh, not really, no." I said, "Oh, I'm Andy, I'm from Swanwick." He said, "Oh yeah," and then automatically we knew the same people in the village, and it just kind of struck from there. And obviously when he signed permanently, that was brilliant for me, because I had a Swanwick ally, but also, he was so underrated as a goalkeeper, and he worked real athleticism, but he worked at his game as well. Fitness, he was the fittest goalkeeper I've ever come across. It was like,
he had nothing on him either, did he?
No,
he was perfect for a goalkeeper at that time.
I spoke about Blue Run, that run we used to do around Thieves Wood, and Bobby Mims was a goalkeeper when Pilks first came in, so two contrasting goalkeepers. Bobby towards the end of his career. On the Blue Run, Bobby used to divert off down a track and turn up at the end, whereas Pilks, he was at the front of the running, so Deer's really fit, Liam had a fit team, and he was up there and beating.
Still does a lot of fitness stuff now. Still does a lot of cycling stuff.
but as a goalkeeper, when you're an outfield player, you see a goalkeeper in front, you're like, Pilch, just kind of give it a rest a little bit and knock back. But that was just the kind of professional he was, and obviously I played with him at Notts County as well, and he was exactly the same. He's so professional. Diet, nutrition, his extra work on the training ground, and I mean goalkeepers are a different breed anyway. Remember, he used to wind him up that when people called him Keeps.
Right.
So it one of the things where he just used to get under his skin. So you can imagine what everyone used to call him in training. So like Keeps, and he's just like grunting under his breath. But yeah, it's goalkeeper a different breed.
Absolutely, yeah. And the final shirt then from that season to sort of round that season off is yours, and it's an incredible one that you've brought in, Andy. I'm going to try and hold it up without. You don't have to hold it for very long, but if we could just get it so the camera can see it. A bit higher for the medal, there we go, that's better. You can put it down now. Your away shirt from that season with your medal, to sum up that season and what it sort of meant to yourself personally, how would you sum up that promotion season?
Just playing professional football with a group of mates is as kind of simple as I can put it, really. And that was one of the key things that got us promotion that season, just how closely knit we were, but also, and I'm not talking about myself here, how talented bunch we were. I think Skip identified, Billy Dean identified, but coming through that kind of, it's almost like a golden age.
Golden generation.
Yeah, golden generation of players coming through the ranks all at the same time, and they've all gone on to play championship level. And
including yourself?
Including myself, yeah. Where I could never have dreamed that. So
but you all brought something different. When you look, you're all in different positions, which was bizarre. You looked like Alistair Ashley talked about it right back. You'd got obviously yourself up front. You'd got Liam on the right. You've got Leroy and Craig in the middle. Everyone was in different positions, so it's not like we'd all of a sudden got loads of central mids or whatever. Everyone fit and did their own little niche thing in that team. Danny Bacon as well, obviously, but he was complete contrast to you. So you both played up front, but did completely different things. So it couldn't have worked better. Really, could it,
I don't know how much strategy there was in that in terms of picking the team through the youth team.
Bit of luck, probably.
I think a lot of luck, but it all came at the right time. And obviously, we managed to get promotion that season, and go on from there really.
So the next season, then moving into League One, what were your personal and the team's sort of feelings about how we would do? Because we'd done extremely well the season before. We had a really good team, a young team. What was the sort of feeling around there?
I think, like you say, we'd got that momentum. We've got a core group of young players going into that season. I think a big loss for us was Les Robinson.
Yeah.
I think he got released, and I think Skip's kind of openly admitted that was one of his perhaps mistakes. Obviously, as a young manager, you do kind of make mistakes. Robbo released, big miss for the team. So never really recovered from that. Not just on the field, which obviously we did miss Robbo on the field, but off it as well. Because he was like, I'm going to call him the grandfather of the group, because he was. So for us, that was missing. I think Tanks as well got released that season.
I don't know if Stuart Reddington left as well. I don't think he came.
No, he didn't. I don't know what happened with Redders.
Chrissy went, obviously.
Chrissy Greenacre left, big miss. Yeah. So we had to replace Chrissy Greenacre was the main one, and we had Larks, Colin Larkin.
Yeah, and Eisden signed.
And Eisden signed a bit later, but Larks first came in. I think it was a record purchase. Paid a good chunk of money for Larks. But Stuart obviously knew him from the youth team days. I think he came from Wolves. He was an international footballer. So he was a bit of a coup actually, Larks, and he was a joy to play with as well. Me and him used to, we formed a pretty decent partnership, particularly in those early days, that first 10 games again. Story of my career, did well for those first 10 games. I think I scored 2.
I was going to say the first game.
I scored 2 against Plymouth, and
so that's the shirt won that season. That's Craig Disley's, but do you remember that first game? 2 goals, but Plymouth as well. Our nemesis from the season before. First game we beat them 4-3.
Yeah, I must admit.
We were 4-1 up at one point.
Yeah, and we had goals in the team, and I think that was evident right through the season that scoring wasn't a problem. It was just keeping them out at the other end. But that first game of the season, I remember it obviously being Bacon or August.
It was,
no real expectations going in from my perspective. And managed to get a couple. I think first one was a header. Lee Williamson crossed it, headed it down. Then the second one was a decent goal, actually, cut in from the left-hand side and knocked it in with my left foot. And again, we went 4-1 up, and it was a bit touchy towards the end. With,
yeah, it was, yeah.
I think Mickey Evans scored a couple to bring it back to 4-3. But yeah, I enjoyed being up at the top of the goal scoring charts for that one afternoon. And it never happened again, but I made the most of it. And it was kind of bitten and bobbing, really, for the rest of that season in terms of me being in the team. I was sent on loan to Crewe. Bear in mind, Crewe came as part of that run and they beat us 5-0 at home.
We could never beat Crewe.
No.
I remember they had, was it Rodney Jack who played for them at the time?
Rodney Jack, Robbles.
And we couldn't get near. We played them twice, I think, in a week. We lost 5-0 and 4-something.
Yeah.
And the only game I think me and my dad have ever walked out was I think it was LDV Vans Trophy, it was called then. And we had to sit in the West Stand, which we didn't like anyway, because we were normally behind the goal. And after about 60 minutes, it was 4-0 down. I think it was pissing it down the rain.
Yeah.
I think we went, shall we just go?
Yeah. But they were a fantastic team.
They were a very good team, yeah.
The thing is, when Dario sees something in you, he'll hang on to it and he'll think, right, there's something I can actually develop there. He saw something in me, which is why he came to Skip to say, can I take him on loan when I was hovering here, there, and everywhere.
So you were still playing, but you were just sort of substitute appearances, maybe, wasn't it?
And I think it was testament to Skip, really, that he let me go out on loan, because they don't normally let players go out on loan to teams in the same league. But he identified that obviously Crewe they got promoted to the Championship that season. Yeah. And I went and played for a month during that season, and I developed so much, learnt so much, proper training ground, proper team, and it was a real sample of how football should be played, if you like, from Crewe's perspective. So, and then I came back, and when Keith Curl came in.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Keith, I've got Keith Curl's shirt here, which I'll swap you for Dizzles. Yeah. That's from a certain game that we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, Keith coming in, how was that sort of big name in football?
Yeah, I can remember him. He was training with us as a player when Skip was still in position, and there was always a bit of caution because Keith Haslam had bought Keith Curl, obviously a big Sheffield drinking mate, and Skip knew the writing was on the wall, really, when Keith Curl started training with us. I can remember him turning up in his big posh Mercedes Benz, about 80 grand's worth of car, and all the lads are like, wow. And he used to smoke cigars. We used to see him, even when he was a player, he was like smoking his cigar in his car, and we kind of knew that he was going to come in and take the team eventually. But when he did come in, he took a real kind of liking to me. I can remember I always need managers to stick with me through the bad times, because they know that my bad times are probably going to outweigh the good times in terms of my form. But Keith Curl stuck with me.
You played quite a lot under Keith,
in League One, and obviously scored that goal away at Barnsley.
That shirt is from that game.
Is that from that game?
It is. So the story behind that, somebody, a fan said, "I've got this shirt. Are you interested?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just interested where you got it from." And apparently he was in the executive boxes at Barnsley and came out and saw, I think it was Wayne Corden's shirt he wanted, and Wayne went, I haven't got my shirt with me, I'll just go inside and grab you a shirt, and that's the shirt.
Right.
But it's a tremendous goal, Andy, that you scored that game. I mean, that's one, it's got to be up there in most Stags fans' favourite goals, and every time it's shared, or footage from that game is shared, everyone mentions a goal.
Yeah. I know, I mean, we always take a good following anyway, don't we? But there was a decent following that game, and I was getting a bit of stick actually before that game in the warm-up, I can remember, which is why my celebration was such that I was kind of giving one of them to the fans, because obviously I hadn't scored for a while going into that game, but I can remember picking up on the right-hand side, and I mean, for anyone who knows me, I love a nutmeg, and I can remember, I think it's Morgan. Is it Craig or Chris Morgan?
Yeah, it could be Chris Morgan.
Chris Morgan, Sheffield United, Premier League defender coming over to me, real tough. I mean, you speak to any centre forward, Morgan is the one who, you're in a game, and I just popped it through his legs, and I can just remember, I haven't got a left foot, so I just kind of bent it with outside of my right foot. And I can see the trajectory even now, just kind of curling into that top corner. And I can remember, I've seen the video loads of times, and Cords, as soon as it's left my foot, he's like, his arms are in the air going, that's a goal. and then obviously it just went crazy, just kind of massive relief for me because I hadn't scored for a while, and it was almost
to score like that as well.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. It was out of this world. It was from nowhere as well.
It was, yeah, because I think Iceland missed a penalty, hadn't he, before, and they were absolutely all the way.
It was another game.
Yeah, Pilks was the man of the match for that. He kept us in it all the way through. I mean, I've gone up and stole the headlines, so I guess I'm not
from 30 yards out.
But again, I can remember saying to the crowd, I said, "That's what I can do," and I can remember that's a frustrating thing about me because I knew I had it in my locker. It's just producing it consistently that I never managed to do, and that was just probably the highlight of my I'm not saying Mansfield career, but certainly the best goal I've scored ever.
I'm going to bring up a game now that hopefully has good memories for both of us. That season, League One, we beat Notts County 3-2 at home. I was the mascot. I showed you a photo before we started this, and it'll be on the screen somewhere at this point when I'm talking. You were my pick to walk out with. There's a photo of me and you running out on that pitch. That's my mascot shirt.
Is that one, is it?
That is literally the one. Do you remember that game? Craig Mitchell obviously scoring an absolute screamer.
Yeah, bobbled up before Mitch's, didn't he? That's why it's so
yeah.
No, I'm only joking. I do, because I think again I was one of them where I wasn't in a rich vein of form scoring wise, but Keith Cole stuck with me.
Yeah.
Big Nottinghamshire derby, you want to be part of those games, and we ripped them apart. I know they got a couple of late goals back.
Yeah, Mark Stallard scored twice, I think.
You did, yeah, and obviously I'm kind of doing a little bit of work for BBC, and I've covered both Notts games this season, which we've kind of obviously won. And those goals come up all the time, as they do on Facebook. So they're firmly lodged on my Facebook account, and I'm showing my little lad Albie all the time. So again, to put one over our Nottinghamshire neighbours was great that day, and it was nice for Mitch. I think that was Mitch's first goal.
Yeah, that's not a shirt from that game. It's a shirt from the future season. But
Mitch was my boot boy actually.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. A good one as well, not like some of the others, but he always made sure that he cleaned my Umbro Speciales well. And I ended up playing up front with Mitch at a number of non-league clubs as well. Yeah,
he had a good non-league career.
He did.
I know his brother used to coach me when I was a young lad at Interski. His brother coached me, and lovely family, and he's a lovely guy as well.
Oh, Mitch is an absolute salt to earth. Him, Bucko, Bap, they all came on my stag do. All good mates. We're all young lads.
All there there's another one.
All young lads. Bucko's there. So I've dragged Bucko into some of my Vets games. So I run a Vets team. So I've dragged Bucko into that, and he comes playing football with us on a Monday night, 5-a-side, 10-a-side, whatever it is. So he's still in touch with Bucko, along with Beardo, and they were they were the follow-up youth team coming through, if you like, and gone on to have decent careers.
Another good set of players though, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, especially with his little one. There he is. Again, another future shirt, but that one.
Yeah, I've got a story about Bap actually, because me and him went out on loan. I think it was the playoff final season.
Yeah, 3-0-4,
where I went on loan here, there, and everywhere. But me and Bap, we went to Burton Albion together, where obviously Nigel Clough was manager, and we both started against Hereford away, and I scored on my debut, and everybody was raving about me. And Bap, he had the worst game I've ever seen any professional footballer have. He was that bad. I don't think he was too happy about being sent on loan, and that came through in some of his performances. He got better, whereas I just got worse. So for me, Hereford away.
You peaked too soon.
Yeah, I did peak too soon. I scored away, and we won 1-0, and Nigel Clough was waxing lyrical about me, going, Andy. And he doesn't normally do that, does he?
No, he don't.
He was
still lying about
that. I haven't. Well, I'm normally in West Ham. I haven't really seen him since I've got back involved in some of the commentary. But I can remember him being massive. I couldn't like somebody actually likes me as a footballer here with Nigel Clough. I played. I'll tell you that the start of the end for me at Burton was I only played a month, and every game was away, which was horrible. Played away at Shrewsbury, and a night game. Nigel Clough was playing in midfield. And,
because he was playing.
Yeah, he was playing. I think it must have been probably late 30s, but he could still do a bit in midfield. And when you're playing with someone like that, honestly, I've never known tellings off like it. Honestly, Whiting, get on of it. And he bollocked me from literally minute 1 to minute 90. And I think for me that was like the penny dropping that I don't think he's as good as we quite made out when he first played against Hereford. And back just grew from strength to strength from that.
He was destined for higher things, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, and not a nice lad as well, proper nice lad. We all went when we got, I think that was about 2002, close season between 03 and 04. We all went to Malia together. Me, Bap, Beardo, Bucko, Jamie Clark, all the young lads basically went on a lads' holiday and had a good time over in Malia.
Brilliant, thank you. So this is the away shirt, exactly the same as the season before, but with slightly different patches, oval as opposed to square. And Adam Eaton. Actually, this was destined to be Michael Sisson's shirt, because actually Sisson is printed behind the which you can just see the club scrubbed it off. But he left the club in the pre-season. But Adam Eaton, what was he like?
Quiet. Yeah, real quiet lad. I think he made his debut similar sort of time to Tommy Curtis, actually, around the kind of Barnsley, December type time. But he had a pedigree coming from, was it Preston? North End?
You're right,
yeah. But a real tidy player. Left back.
Yes.
Left-footed, but a good and physical as well. I remember the Barnsley game, actually. I think looking back at it, he should have conceded a penalty at one point. I think there was one, over Subius challenge being made, but he was a proper tough tackling left back and really tidy as well. Cracking.
Got unlucky with injuries, didn't he?
He did.
He would have played a lot more for Stones, I think.
I think he did have to retire.
Yeah, I think he retired after the playoff final.
Oh, did he?
Or certainly after that season. Yeah, but he. I think he would have carried on at the Stags, I think. But like you say, he had bad injuries.
And I think he embraced playing for Mansfield. He moved his family down, which was a big commitment from the northwest. So again, he came and he embraced it, and I think he enjoyed just playing with decent players. A decent team and a decent kind of group.
So that season we struggled for consistency. We had some really good games. We had some bad games. But we always scored goals. We never struggled in that department. But then you think of games like the Bristol City game, which actually I was talking to a Bristol City shirt collector this week about. He says it's his favourite game of all time. I said,
really?
It's not mine. And we sort of struggled to sort of get anything going, didn't we? Did you at any point think, no, we can still get out of this? Because you were playing sort of back end of the season, especially. You played a heck of a lot of games. Did you sort of think you could get out of it, or did it slowly just?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. I think that season seemed to kind of peter out a little bit. I can't remember us ever really being in with a chance because the damage had been done quite a bit before Christmas. I know obviously we picked up results. I think we beat Blackpool on Boxing Day. Obviously we beat Barnsley away at early December time. And then after that we didn't really pick up enough points in that running. I think we played at Blackpool away, didn't we, on that bank holiday, Easter bank holiday Monday. We're 2-1 up and we were 2-1 down at half time. Junior and Mitch played that first half and me and Larks were on the bench, and Keith Curl made a change at half time, 2-1 down, got it back to 3-2. I think if we'd have won that, we'd have had the momentum, because Easter's always one of those kind of defining points in the season. And that draw away at Blackpool on that Easter was probably the kind of nail in the coffin.
Did they score a late goal?
Late goal,
When you look, we conceded so many late goals that lost games, and some points we were winning and we lost. That when we drew, but we threw away so many points.
So I think it was after that game really that we knew that perhaps the writing was on the wall for that season.
Did you have sort of any discussions with Keith at the end of the season about your future and what the season after would hold?
Yeah, because obviously I felt that I'd done okay. I think I only scored probably 6 or 7 goals, but I think I only started about 15 games, so I had like a decent goal to game ratio. I knew that Keith Curl liked me, and we'd obviously gone through with Diz and Liam and Lee Williamson, Bobby Assel, and I knew they were on kind of decent contracts for our cohort, and I wanted to not be paid similar to them, but be near them, and I was nowhere near them. I was literally on like a factory wage all the way through, when I was playing at Mansfield first team
Yeah.
and scoring goals.
Yeah.
So I felt the contract offer that they gave me during that summer from when we got relegated to the playoff final season was not great. I had some bit of advice. My agent at the time took me down to Bristol Rovers for a week, and I did not want to go one bit, but he said, Andy, you can get X amount if you do this trial. So I went down there, and I think that kind of that put Keith Curl, it upset him a little bit that I went down on trial, because I remember I went on trial and it was in the lead up to the pre-season friendly against Man City.
Yeah, I remember
when David Seaman played.
Yeah, I was going to say David Seaman played. Yeah.
And all that week leading up to it, I was down Bristol Rovers, basically being forced on this trial to get an extra couple £100 a week or whatever it was. Came back on the Friday, I rang Keith Curl, said, look, I want to play for Mansfield. I don't want to move away from home, which is always my intention. And he said, "Okay, Andy, you're not going to be involved tomorrow." And I'm like, I'm proper gutted. I can remember the game against Man City.
Yeah.
I actually went fishing just to kind of distract myself away from it. So while all my teammates are playing against Man City in a pre-season friendly against David Seaman, I'm sat at River Trent fishing, which was a bit of a low point. But yeah, and then I came back. I was the fittest I'd ever been that season. I wanted to prove to Keith Curl that I was worth, being up there in terms
you played
of the contract.
You played the first game. I mean, that's my shirt from that season, but that was a very different style to the previous shirts. But
I started that first game against Leyton Orient, and for a player who'd been bitten and bobbing all pre-season, for him to put me in the starting 11. So I don't really know what clicked in Keith's mind about me during that game, because I think I set the goal up, because the ball came across, I remember it quite vividly actually, and I've got in on the keeper, barged into the keeper. It was a foul all day long. Referee didn't give it. In fact, I think it was on Soccer AM, when they used to highlight like karate kicks or bad challenges, and it was one of them, and I've proper clattered into the keeper. He's dropped it and somebody followed in and scored, and I thought, all right, I'm in here. And then next week again I was fishing, and Keith Curl rang me up, and I didn't know who it was. It was just a private number, and I picked up. I said hello, and he says, "Hi Andy," and I thought, oh, it must be someone I know. I said, "Hey mate, you're all right?" And he went, "Mate, I am not your mate." And it was Keith Curl, telling me he wanted to send me on loan to Boston.
I was about to say, how did that come about?
Oh God. I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay at Mansfield, but I knew Neil Redfern at Boston at the time, so he was one who kind of wanted me to go over there. I knew that travelling would be a problem. I knew that it was going to cost me financially, because travelling over to Boston every day as well. There were no expenses. 2 hours there, 2 hours back, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't enjoy my time, and it reflected in some of my performances on the pitch at Boston. Fans didn't necessarily take to me either, but so it wasn't a great time. Then when I came back, straight out on loan to Kidderminster.
Yeah, so you played the first 2 games that you came back, you immediately played, and then you were off to Kidderminster again. Yeah.
But in contrast, Kidderminster was brilliant for me, because I was only training. They only wanted me down training on a Thursday and Friday, so I was with Mansfield Monday, Tuesday, day off Wednesday, training with them Thursday, Friday. And again, talk about good groups of players. They were a fantastic bunch, and they were just. Yeah. It was just.
They were in the same league as Stokes, weren't they?
They were, they were in the same league. Some good players, really good players. Lovely little club, lovely little ground, and I really enjoyed my time down at Kidderminster.
We went again, didn't you? Which we'll talk about a little bit later on. That same season, I've got the away shirts here somewhere. It started off without a sponsor. Which is that one, but that's that one. And then we've got, that's Bobby Hassels. What was Bobby like to play with? Because he played with him for a few seasons.
Yeah, brilliant. He was one of the best right backs that I've ever played with. He was a great player, and we used to travel in together because he's a Derby lad. So there was me, Lee Williamson, Cords used to come from Leek. So that was our car school, the 4 of us. Bobby used to be blasting out like rap music, Dr. Dre, and just basically used to bully me for the whole of the journey. Yeah, just bullied him, Leroy. were just, but it toughened me up. It made me the player, and I knew that Bobby liked me deep down, but he kind of tried to toughen me up a bit. I don't think it worked, but he saw that as a 6'4" centre forward, I need to be a lot tougher than I was. So he tried his best to toughen me up, but I was having none.
The other part of the car was this man, Leroy.
Yeah, car squad. I mean, what a player.
He's good.
Technically, was unbelievable. Fit, just knew. Give it simple. Technique. He was, and again, he went on to play. Did he play Premiership?
I think he did. Yeah, he played a lot of Watford, didn't he? Played a lot of games for Watford, amongst other teams. But yeah, I remember him a lot of Watford. Yeah,
but also a nice bloke, a nice lad, and was kind of Derby lads, kind of stuck together. And me, Bobby, and Lee, and then Cords was somebody who we coached into our car school, having come from Leek and into Derby, so we travelled in together.
So you came back to the club in January from Kidderminster after a good spell. You played a few games initially and then didn't really play sort of till March time, making a lot of sub appearances. Was that a difficult time for you, not really playing, certainly not starting a lot of games?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I thought from January onwards, I knew that was probably my last season at Mansfield, even early on.
Right, okay.
I was sent out on loan when I got back from Kidderminster to Burton.
Yeah.
So that's when I had another month out in non-league. So I knew that Keith Curl wasn't necessarily kind of fancying me as a player because he'd sent me out on loan here and everywhere. But I remember transfer deadline day in March, Crewe came back in for me, who were playing at Forest on the Saturday in the Championship at the City Ground, and I don't know. Keith Curl says it was the chairman, Keith Aslam, who turned down the loan, but I think it was Keith Curl, and that for me was, well, he's not starting me, he's not playing me, yet he's preventing me going out to a Championship team to get some experience and to look towards next season. So I remember him turning down that move on the Friday, and I think it was Tony Vaughan who told me about it, because obviously he had contacts
he used to play
at Forest and Crewe, and he knew that they wanted me on the bench for that game.
Yeah.
So I would have been in the sun at City Ground, in the Championship, on the bench in the Championship. Instead, he took me down to Yeovil and didn't even put me on the bench. So I was not happy.
You've done it that far.
Proper stitched me up. Me and Luke Dimich, I remember, because he was spare man, went up to the players' bar, and we shouldn't have done this, but we just started drinking about 2 o'clock as soon as we knew we were entering the team.
It's a long trip to be not playing them. It's a
statement. Overnight.
It's a statement, isn't it? If you're not going to play them, just don't.
Exactly. So for me, that was like my season done, really. I can't remember even being on the bench after that.
I think you made a couple of substitute appearances. Yeah, you did, until I think the last game. I haven't written down which one it was, but there was a few games just before the playoff semi-final where you actually did play. So coming up to that playoff final, you didn't expect to be anywhere near the team because you didn't play in the semi-final.
No.
I can't remember. I've got your spare shirt actually, which you very kindly donated into the collection when we first spoke. That's your shirt with very quickly just got the bespoke writing on for the game there.
Number 19. I got demoted from 15 the season before to 19, so I think the writing should have been on the wall, because normally players go up in the squad number, but I actually went down. So, but and we had also Jason White, so I had to have an A.
You've got an A then.
Yeah. So, but me and Jason got on really well. He's big into fishing, as I was back then. So we were like just on the back
club.
Yeah, we were basically after every training session, straight out onto the pond side, fishing. Yeah. In fact, there were a few games. There were Tuesday night games where I can remember me and Jason used to go fish, because you meant to rest up on a Tuesday night game. Be in bed, eating your pasta, resting all. But me and Jason were out fishing back, then coming over to Stags on a Tuesday night and playing.
Yeah.
So. Not the greatest preparation, but I mean, me and Jace got on really well, and he's still a good friend now. So I can't remember the striker they bought in from Sheffield United.
Torrendon Jeff.
Yeah, they bought him in because Keith Curl knew him, and he was a similar sort of player to me, but I felt that could have perhaps contributed to the team.
Yeah, I don't think he did anything different than what you could have done.
And obviously I knew the lads as well. So, in fact, Dario said to me when I was spare man at the playoff final, he said, this was at kind of half time, he said, they could do with you in this game, a player like yourself. Because what's his name?
Lauren De Jaffo.
De Jaffo was not. I don't think his heart was in it. He was towards the end of his career.
He was a bit of a journeyman type, not really in it. He was up front with Larkin. You could tell the difference was that Larkin was running around. She obviously scored a legitimate goal that got cancelled off. But I know what you mean. He wasn't sort of blustering around the pitch.
No, it wasn't in his blood. Where for me, Mansfield, it was in my blood. It was
a massive game.
Yeah, they gave me my chance, and I felt that I could have contributed to that game, but unfortunately, I was spare man, and the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got another shirt from that same game. This one's a worn shirt from Tom Curtis. What was he like as well? Because I met Tom. He's like a nice guy.
He is, and also a Derby lad. I knew Tommy from kind of Chesterfield, because I was at Chesterfield as a young lad, kind of 14s, 15s in the centre of excellence, and Tommy was a legend at Chesterfield, and knew of him, knew obviously from that FA Cup run that they had. And you talk about you're brushing shoulders with players that you're seeing on the telly. Well, Tommy Curtis was one of those for me. And again, just a nice bloke, down to earth, and fitted into the team really well. And still talk to him even now. He just lives down the road from me. So again, big player in the dressing room. Yeah,
I can imagine. And one more final shirt from that occasion is Phillips' goalkeeper shirt. You can see there with the massive arm pads on it. What were your thoughts on that penalty shootout? Was it something that was practiced in training? And when it came up, did you think we're going to win? I mean, as a fan, I had already. It may as well have been on the bus on the way home, because I was adamant we weren't going to win it. But we won in the semi-finals on penalties. Were you reasonably confident that we were going to do it, or?
Well, again, penalties are a bit of a lottery, aren't they? I think we did practice the penalties, although Liam never practiced the penalty. He did, but I think that's the type of character Liam is. He wanted to make the headlines. He wanted to do it in.
You got to live with that, and he'd scored 20 odd goals.
Exactly.
You've just got to go. He'd scored penalties before. If it goes in, no one says anything.
Exactly, and but. I think heartbreaking, really. I don't think I've travelled back on the team coach on the way back, and I kind of knew that was my day numbered at Mansfield.
So it's different for you then, because although you'd been at the club a while, it was a bit, the feeling must be a little bit empty, because you're like, well, even if we win and we get promoted, I'm probably not going to be here anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so the playoff final, really, I couldn't tell you an awful lot about it, to be honest. I was just, my mind was elsewhere, planning for my future away from football. Luckily, during that game, I had that conversation with Dario Gradi, who said, "Look, I'm interested." So I was a little bit happier than perhaps some of the Stags fans on that game. But nevertheless, you work hard all season, don't you? And for it to end like that was a cruel way to end. But it's got to be decided some way, and Huddersfield went on to become a Premier League team, and Mansfield are still waiting for that. Waiting for that promotion back to League One, which hopefully will come this season.
So at the end of that season, obviously Mansfield season ended in defeat and ultimately staying in League Two. However, you, as did many Mansfield players, jumped up the divisions. You ended up at Crewe, or back at Crewe, should I say. This is your Crewe shirt. What was that like playing there? Because obviously you enjoyed it the first time. This is the Championship, 2 levels higher. Must have been very different for what you'd experienced at Mansfield and Burton the season before.
Absolute dream. I mean, I can remember we had a leaving do down Mansfield with all the lads who were kind of moving on. Woke up the next day, blurry-eyed, thinking, well, what's my next move? What's my next step? And I got a phone call from my agent say, look, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah, why? He said, you've got a dream move. You're gonna be playing Championship football next season. He says, it's not the greatest financially. I said, I don't care. It was, in the end, it was like double what I was on at Mansfield. But it wasn't great. But it was just the fact that A, I'd got another club, and B, for someone like a Championship club, and, I can remember sitting down and looking at the Championship once I got off the phone to my agent, seeing the teams, you know, West Ham, Leicester, Cardiff City, Brighton, Forest, Derby, and I'm like, oh my days, look at some of these stadiums.
Yeah.
And luckily, kind of Sunderland were in the league at that time. And luckily, I played a lot.
You played a lot of games.
I did, yeah.
Looking at League Two, playing hardly, not many games, to then go in and being very much a regular in a good Crewe team.
Yeah, my goal scoring ratio in the Championship was the best I've had.
Yeah.
I started 12 games and I scored 4 goals. So I've got a 1 in 3 at Championship level, which isn't bad.
Yeah, and Stags didn't fancy it.
No, exactly. But, you're playing against, playing with players which, played with decent players, Liam, Cords, Les Robinson, Pilks, all them. But once you get to that level, it's another calibre. Dean Ashton, for instance, he was in the team right up until January, and he was the best centre forward I've played up front with. He was fantastic. Left, right foot, worked hard, and if he hadn't had the injuries he had, I know he started to get into the England fold, which is where he got his injury, but he would have been, he would have contributed to some real good kind of World Cup performances, I'm sure of it, if he hadn't got injured. So I didn't start straight away at Crewe. My debut was in the October. I think Dean Ashton was injured for that game, and I remember getting a phone call off one of the lads, Luke Varney, telling me, Andy, Dino's injured, and this was in the car driving to the game. Yeah. And he said, you starting? I said, you are winding me up. So I ended up starting against Brighton. I think it was in the October, and I scored on my debut.
Yeah, I was going to say that you scored on your debut.
Brighton. So that settled the nerves a bit. Yeah. And then from there, I had a decent run in the team. I scored 3 on the bounce.
Scored against Leicester in front of 20. I looked, there was over 27,000 people there. That must be like from that to Mansfield to that, and Burton with a few thousand must be. Must make scoring that a little bit more special. Silencing 27,000 people.
27,000 at Walker Stadium, and again, that's one of the main highlights of my career, scoring that goal. As are many playing at Upton Park, 27,000 on a Tuesday night.
We've got the shirt from that game. We've got Chris Powell's shirt there, which you can see, number 34, long sleeve, still got mud all over it.
Yeah, so I'm a big Derby fan. Grew up watching Chrissy Powell in the promotion season. And I kind of earmarked that I wanted his shirt after the game, so it was a Tuesday night game, Upton Park, and again, you talk about atmospheres. I've played at Wembley, I've played at Walker Stadium, but Upton Park on a Tuesday night was the best atmosphere I've ever played in. I've got a bit of a story actually, because I came on and we drew 1-1 against West Ham, and we had this code name for defending free kicks. So last 10 minutes, Teddy Sheringham pops up, free kick, 25-30 yards out. I've gone back to help defend it. And this code word's gone round, and it was Scouser's ear. So this was like a code word for us. When the player comes up to shoot, we all drop out and catch them all offside. Yeah. So everyone's going, Scouser's ear. So Teddy Sheringham's ran up, and he's gone to shoot, and we've come out to catch everyone offside, apart from me. I've stayed. I'm like a space cadet. I don't know where I was. I was somewhere daydreaming somewhere. I've stayed in, kept everyone on side. I think it's gone over to Marlon Airwood. Yeah. Luckily, he's put it wide, but if that had gone in, it just typifies me really, staying in when everyone else
Send back 12 pound and cause chaos.
Exactly, yeah. So not sure how much of a contribution I made to helping out, but we got a draw that night, which again, big underdogs against West Ham, little old Crewe, and went on to play against my favourite team.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom Huddleston's Derby shirt there. Yeah. Quite an iconic Derby shirt.
It is. Yeah.
Again, what was that like playing against you?
Well, like I said, when I first signed, Derby were the one team I was looking for, because I used to watch them and I used to dream about being out on that field. Yeah. Granted, it wasn't the baseball ground anymore, it was Pride Park, but I've always dreamed about playing at Pride Park, and to play there against Derby. I knew I needed to get a shirt, and Tom Huddleston's one of my favourite players anyway, so
he had some career, didn't he, to be fair?
I went over, asked for his shirt, luckily I got it. Played against Forest as well this season. I got a shirt off Chris Commons,
right?
But my mate's a big Forest fan, so I gave it to him, and subsequently he gave it away to someone. So
You also played Man United, of course.
yeah, I've got a story about that actually.
So you got a story about that.
Yeah, we played against Man United in the League Cup.
Yeah.
You know, World Cup winners. Player making his debut, Gerard Piqué.
Yes, he came on. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, Alan Smith had played. Liam Miller, I think, scored for them. Eric Jemba, I think he played.
Yeah, so Gerard Piqué played, and it was his debut. And I went over to him after the game because I was obviously playing against him centre half.
Yeah.
Bullied him, obviously.
You had him in your pocket.
Honestly, I had one of the best games I've ever had against Man United, and I can remember my wife telling me that when I came on, Alex Ferguson just kind of looked at me up and down and went, bloody hell, like that.
Where have they got him from?
Yeah, where have we got him from? Where have we grown him from? But I asked Gerard Piqué after, can I have a shirt kind of thing?
Yeah.
And he says, no, it's my debut. I'm like, God, if I'd have got that shirt.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
World Cup
winner, yeah. On his debut
best
as
team,
well.
best team in Barcelona, played the
Yeah.
best team probably ever. And in hindsight, I should have known that they've got two shirts because a lot of the lads,
That's the kit man.
they wouldn't have got the shirt they wore, but they went back to a changing room and got the second kit.
Yeah.
So I should have just followed him into the dressing room and just pestered him. But that Gerard Piqué shirt now would have done. Yeah. So I mean, he didn't play very well when I played against him because obviously I made him look a little bit. No, I didn't really. But yeah,
he never played against anyone who'd played for Mansfield.
Exactly.
He didn't know what Mansfield was.
I think he struggled with the English game, to be honest, which is why he didn't do so well at Man
he didn't.
United.
And then went on to be unbelievable, one of the best in the world.
So yeah, I played against Gerard Piqué, which is a bit of a feather in the cap and always a story that I tell the lads. So yeah.
Yeah. If we interview him, do you reckon he'd remember that? Who is this Andy White?
Exactly. Yeah.
Brilliant. So following your season with Crewe, you joined. I don't normally get this out on this YouTube channel, but unfortunately there is one in the room. Notts County. How did you find that? Same level as Mansfield at the time.
Yeah, I mean, getting released by Crewe was a real kind of low point, and I think.
Actually, it wasn't expected after the season.
No, it wasn't. No, and the way Dario did it as well. It was a phone call. He didn't even get me back into the training ground to explain the reasons behind it. It was just a phone call saying, "Look, Andy." I think if we'd have got relegated from the Championship, I remember the last game of the season for Crewe, we played Coventry at home. If we'd have won that game, we'd stay in the Championship. If we'd have lost, we'd have probably got relegated. And I think if we'd have lost that game and got relegated, I probably would have got another year.
In League One. Yeah.
But unfortunately, they stayed in the Championship, and I got released, and that's when my love for the game really went. There were kind of murmurings that I was going to be going down to like Bristol City, Bristol Rovers. And then the phone call came from Notts, which is obviously local.
Yeah, of course.
Would mean that I just bought a house actually with my wife, so I could stay local in that house. So it ticked every box for me.
Yeah.
And I think I was very late signing for them. I can remember it was kind of end of July time when I signed, and by that time you start to look towards not having much of a pre-season. I can remember coming in and I'd put quite a bit of weight on actually. In fact, good John, he came in and he grabbed my fat rolls and he says, "You're like a seal," like a layer of blubber. But luckily he put me in the fat club. So me, Brian O'Callaghan, who used to be at Barnsley, running around the Trent every afternoon doing fat burners, and it soon came off.
I'm going to say, it won't take you long as a professional footballer to lose it.
No, because he used to say, you've got to go home, you've got to do your fat burning, and then you've got to go home and eat vegetables. No fishing. I didn't have time. I was just too busy running around the river. But it worked. I got down to 10% body fat pretty quick, which is more like, say, for Brian. He struggled to lose his weight, but it dropped off me, and I did. I think I only scored 2 goals that season. So again,
you played against Stags with Kevin Pilkington, which I never quite forgave him for. I think for some reason as a kid I was a little bit less forgiving with you. I don't know whether that's because you'd just been. It seemed like to me like you'd come down to a club that was local, whereas Kev, I was like, I don't know why I was a bit bitter about Kev going to Canada. But you played against Mansfield. Was that a bit strange coming back to Mansfield? You won 3-2. Not
Yeah, I mean,
was it a bit strange?
And it was, but I got a decent reception.
Yeah, no, there's no. I think Pilco got
he
first
did,
stick.
yeah.
But no, I don't remember any animosity towards you.
And it probably helped that I didn't start the game either. I came on and I think we were either drawing and I helped the team to win. And I think that's the last
3-2. I think
last time a Notts team have won it, the one call.
Yeah.
So that was what 20.
That's a long time.
It was 2005, so it's
it was
19 years ago.
Yeah.
So we haven't won there still for that time. But again, I think obviously with Notts, it's got a tradition, it's got a history, oldest football league club.
Yeah.
So I was proud to be a part of that, and just more than anything, it was convenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was hard work because Goodjohn was proper. It was the first time when they were starting to get into all the sports science stuff. So I talked earlier about my body fat measurements. He was into that. Nutrition. We had heart rate monitors on. We did glucose tests as well.
Yeah.
So the scientific side of things, and he was big into. It was honestly, well, we used to train in the morning, do your work on the field, and then afternoon we used to go to the gym. So it was like a proper job.
Yeah.
I was literally leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whereas when you're a professional footballer, what you want to be doing is leaving at 1.
Yeah,
and it did well because we were the fittest team. I think we were top of the league after 10 games, but faltered quite a lot actually, nearly ended up getting relegated. And I got sent out to Kidderminster during that season and signed for them the following season on a full-time contract.
Yeah, and we've got that shirt here, number 9.
Yeah.
Looks good with number 9, doesn't it? Looks better with number 9, doesn't it? Anyway, number 9 looks better.
I got these out actually last night, showing my little lad. And growing up with Derby shirts, I was always used to get white 9 on it.
Yeah.
And to see a professional shirt with white 9 on was almost... That's when I know I've kind of made it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I understand.
I can look back with real fond memories of that shirt, particularly, doing what I set out to do as a 12-year-old, which is being a number 9 at a professional team, which I did.
And at Wembley, so on the front of the shirt, obviously it's got the Wembley specific writing there from the FA Trophy final against Stevenage, where you did something that you didn't at Mansfield. I know it was at Millennium, but you played at Wembley, 52-odd thousand people. What was that like to? So you came on for Isden Christie, an ex-colleague at Mansfield. Yeah,
incredible, particularly because, and I've got a lot to thank the manager Mark Yates for, because in the lead up to that, I was on loan again. They sent me out on loan to Stafford Rangers in the lead up to it.
Saw that,
and I was thinking, I'm nowhere near here if we get to that FA Trophy final. But we finished the season at Stafford. He called me back, said, Andy, come and train with us. Prepare as though you're going to be going down to Wembley.
Yeah.
So we went to Lilleshall for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Had some really good training because obviously the end of the season is quite away from the FA Trophy final. Knew the final would be the first ever competitive cup final at the new Wembley.
Yeah.
So again, that's something I'm like, crikey, I want to be part of this, but not dreaming I would because I'd been out on loan. Really, So I can remember it was the day before we were training down at Bisham Abbey, and the manager Mark Yates pulled me to one side. He said, Andy, you're on the bench tomorrow, and I can say that was one of the happiest moments of my life. To know that
I can't imagine what that was like.
To know that I was going to be involved. So again, you go to look around, this brand new stadium, the most iconic stadium in the world. You're looking around, you're taking all your videos, you're travelling to the ground, you're soaking up the atmosphere, and then the crowd starts to fill. 55,000.
It's a lot of people for an FA Trophy. Because nowadays I think there's two big teams though, Kidderminster and Stevenage, to Football League teams.
Well, it was the fact that it was the first competitive cup final at Wembley, so a lot of neutrals wanted to go and watch a game because A, they could get a ticket, and B, it was the first one. So I think a lot of it had to do with that. And I can remember sitting there watching on the bench. I think we're 3-2 down. I came on. I did get a nutmeg on the pitch.
Another one.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I've shown the lad that one as well. But I also Mr. Sitter, which final win here, which almost typifies
the Mansfield Town in you. That is.
Well, I think it's just the Andy White in me, to be honest. It's just me all over. You dream about playing at Wembley and scoring in a cup final. Well, I've done one or two of those.
You've done half of them.
I've had a chance at Wembley. live on Sky, and in typical Andy White fashion, he's missed from 6 yards. But nobody can take that away from me. I've
No,
played there.
absolutely not. 100%.
I've played in front of all those people at the new Wembley, so that's something on my CV, and a shirt that I will hold for the days to come, hopefully.
So apart from the mascot appearance, we did meet in another game, which I told you about beforehand. Sutton Town, we're playing for them. I was refereeing in the central mids, and my remark to you was, Andy, you won't remember me, Andy, but I walked out with you when I was X years old, 11 years old, and your response was something along the lines of, that makes me feel very, very old. What were your experiences like playing in sort of local football? Enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, I mean, I went to Worksop. I had 4 good years at Worksop. So again, the non-league mentality, over beers on the bus, that really suited me. It was hard work.
Yeah.
Just going back to my Kidderminster days when I played in my FA Trophy final, I played at Wembley on the Saturday. I started working in a factory on the Tuesday.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that shows you how you can.
Yeah, it's cutthroat though.
Cutthroat.
Yeah.
But I had a mortgage to pay. So
good choice.
I had to get a job to supplement my football, and then you're up at 5:30 in the morning, work in a factory till 4, finish work, then you go into your second job, training on a Tuesday, training on a Thursday, out all day Saturday, travelling to Kendal, Marine, all those really nice places.
Glamorous places.
Yeah. But it was I had to do it to supplement my income, but also obviously keep playing. And I think it was at that point where it was a bit of a job, more of a I need the money rather than enjoying football.
Yeah.
But then went to, where did I go after that? I went to Long Eaton for a season.
Nice.
And I went to South Normanton, and I signed for Sutton because Mitch was there. Dean Mitchell was joint manager with Shorty, and those two were brilliant. And I found my love again for football really at Sutton.
I remember you look like you're enjoying yourself. I remember seeing you.
Yeah. And we won the league. So
yes, you did. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It worked out really well. And then I played. God, since then, Shorty keeps ringing me, asking me to play for all these like Mansfield Rendon clubs. I played for Renner for one game.
Yeah.
Played for Clipston, scored against Sherwood. And that was only, I think I was about 37, so about 3 years ago. I'm like, Shorty, honestly, I'm done, mate. He says,
delete me off the list.
Yeah, Andy, you can still do it. In fact, I'm still getting phone calls from Craig Weston at Selsdon asking me to go, Andy, all I need to do is stand up front and head it. I said,
that's what I used to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, have you seen me play? I can do the standing bit, the heading bit, I'm not so sure. So, all these non-league managers keep ringing me up and asking me just to turn out. But I play veterans football now, so over 40s, and I run that team, which I really enjoy. Again, all my old mates from Swanwick. Pilks has said he'll come and turn out for us as well for a bit of a
star appearance.
So I'm gonna hold him to that and hopefully get him involved. But still playing at the tender old age of 42.
If I was to ask you to sum up your career at Mansfield specifically, sort of how would you sum it up?
Well, again, just you got no fear really, because you've got no real pressure from financially. I didn't have a house at the time. I was just living with my mum and dad, playing professional football, fulfilling my dream. I can remember vividly being in that office with Billy Dean and at the old West Stand, and him saying, Andy, we're going to offer you a professional contract. And I'm like, well, that's what I've always dreamed of. And Mansfield gave me that opportunity. Billy Dean gave me that opportunity. Ivan Hollick gave me that opportunity. Stuart Watkiss, who I'll be forever thankful for, to start me on the road of fulfilling most lads' dream of being a professional footballer. And I've managed to do it at a local club, and I still follow them to this day. So again, although I've had quite a few clubs, Mansfield's one that I hold dearest to my heart, and the supporters as well. So.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Andy. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.